Hi guys, like today I got a bit of free time to make a video about like my personal pet deck, which are like the Noble Knights. This video came as requested as because the last event I did play, I used this deck. I didn't manage to do that hot, but I found interesting concepts like uh, this deck. I think it's pretty misunderstood. Like it's not meta, it's not top tier because I can like go ahead and play like core cost and have a good time versus most decks. The deck is pretty much autopilot. It's very hard to break with it. I think that the pure version is a bit better than the Luna-like version in the sense that it can be made more stable or it can be built to beat the Luna-like matchup. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting format. I don't like it too much. Like the problem with the format itself, it's like Dengirsu. Dengirsu is a really problematic card, not because it outscards, like that's whatever. The problem with Dengirsu is that you can't blow away back row. This means that you can play like Twin Twisters, which is a pretty optimal card in this setup, except for the Arcus matchup. So you can play that card and you have to play some other suboptimal choices like Hate Grenade or Cosmic Cyclone, etc. So that part I don't enjoy. On the other hand, Sky Striker is a pretty healthy deck. Uh, I don't know. I think the format is well positioned. However, this deck randomly takes off, which I think it will. Yeah, format is not going to be so nice. So the reason as of why this video came out of it is because like I've told you, this deck is really misunderstood, and I want to show people how to play it. Like we already discussed a lot about how to build it, which is like the 60 card version. A bit of context on that, like the 40 card version for Noble Knights just doesn't work. Believe me, I like to play 40 cards as often as I can, but unlike most players, I'm not that set on playing 40. Like, yeah, it's usually better because you see your sided cards more often with 60 cards. But other than that, a 40 card deck is not necessarily more consistent than a 60 card one. So to determine that, let's define why do I understand for consistency, and that's the ability to do the same move over and over and over and over and over and over again. So that's basically what consistency means to me. Like define your game plan and then find a way to execute it game after game after game after game. That's really important. That's a really important part. That's why not necessarily a 40 card deck is more consistent than a 60 card one, right? It's based on base cases, and usually 40 is better, like 90% of the time. 40 is better, but then we have exceptions like Infernoids, Noble Knights, or decks that can operate fine in both setups, like Earth Machines. I actually do like Earth Machines a lot. Not as much as Noble Knight because I actually do think that Earth Machines actually have potential to be very good. Machine Link could be very good, but nah, let's not get out of topic too much because I think this video is going to be a bit long, so I'm gonna try to make it as fast as possible. So let's say, just for to retake a bit the topic of the 60 card deck, let's say that you want to resolve mid-draw as often as possible in a 40 card deck, right? Let's say that you ignore all of the shortcomings of this card, which is Merlin. I don't know. Here's Merlin. Eh. Oh wow, I don't even have a Merlin here. Wow, that's a really crappy card, right? Yeah, I don't even have one in hand. But let's assume I have one. Let's pretend I have one. That card has a lot of shortcomings. Here I have one. Has a lot of shortcomings because it's a card that honestly doesn't do a lot for the deck. Like, yeah, it gets you closer to the draw, but at the cost of losing ceiling. Like, this card is basically useless going second because any trap is going to basically end your turn. And going first, if it gets hit by Ash or Impermanence, you are basically going to lose the game there. because you can use like Monster Reborn and stuff. So like you can use other type of extenders. So you are very limited. You cannot even Monster Reborn this card. It's so bad. It's very outdated. If it was like Brothers or Costanin, where it said after, it would have been usable because you could use like your extenders first, make Isolde, eat the Impermanence or the Ash Blossom, and then this guy could have gone off consistently and act as more copies of Boris. But as is, just don't play this card. It's not good. Like it clogs your hands. It's terrible. But let's assume you play 10 Medroud, which is 1 reinforcement of the army, 3 Heritage of the Chalice, 3 Medrods, and 3 Merlin. The probability of opening 1 at a 5-card hand in a 40-card deck, it's around 78%, right? I think so. So if let's assume you play a similar Noble Arm ratio, like 10, it's usually 11 or 12 when we account for Heritage of the Chalice, but let's say it's 10. In that way, you're gonna have 80% of the 80%. That means that's a 60% chance to see mid-road and an equip. Then you have to deduct the number of times you're going second or the number of times you're going to be hit with Impermanence or Ash Blossom, which are commonly played hand traps, and then you're going to start to see the flaws in that plan. It's just not consistent enough. Don't try to do it. Like, just forget about it. Forget it. Play the game with this card in mind. No, not with Medroad. Medroad is good if it happens, but it's usually way too risky. Like, I usually don't even use his effect even if I can. So yeah, just don't. So to do this kind of explanation in the deck, I decided to cut my deck into several roles. I think that we have a pretty simplistic approach to what cards are doing in our decks, and this is something that I'm just going to tell you once, and it's probably going to change your life because it actually changed mine. I'm not in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is pretty relevant. It's a game that doesn't matter. But something that actually changed my life when I started working was defining my objectives. Like, I shouldn't start working on any project without even understanding the scope of the task I was trying to do. When I realized that I shouldn't be doing anything until I understood what I was trying to accomplish, is when I started to grow professionally a lot. Like, I have just been working for 3 years, and it's equivalent of if I had been working like 7 or 8 years. Like, absolutely, like, take that into account. Don't do anything if you don't know why you're doing it. Just don't. So just to make things a bit more simple, I decided to split my deck, like I've told you, in cards with different roles. I have here like the extenders. These are cards that can special summon a warrior. Then I got the defense cards. These cards, I'm going to put the noble arms here, because if this was a traditional deck, the noble arm cards will be taking the role of the trap cards from a deck building perspective. And then Phantasme is the best hand trap of this format. I know it's expensive. I know that pretty much everyone with Phantasme is not playing Noble Knights because there's no point in doing that. But I'm crazy. I'm nuts. Well, kind of, because like you see here, I have like pretty much every meta deck assembled. So yeah, I don't know. Like I could play anything I want. But Phantasme is really fantastic, and in this deck is good as well because it can protect the board setups, and it can also try to unclog your hand if you go second. It's the best hand trap to play. If you can afford them or you don't have them for other decks, I would recommend you to just play more extenders. Don't play Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is kind of a mediocre card. I know that it's the super mega staple card, but don't fall into that trap. If you see profiles like from top players like Jesse Cotton, you're going to see that he doesn't even think that Ash Blossom is that good, but he's covering spaces And basically in Salamangreat it's crazy to just not play as Blossom because it's the one you can recycle. So yeah, but just don't. Right? So it's Phantasmate. This card is also acting as defense. And then we have the famous Garnets. These Garnets are cards that you don't want to draw under any circumstance. Like these cards are cards that you don't want to see ever, ever, ever. In this category, we have like even double or nothing if you want to play it. Like this card isn't terrible. Like it's probably the best of the bunch, so it's fine. But it's still it's like an hybrid between the Garnet and the defense, so it's fine. The problem with these cards is that you don't want to draw pretty much any of those. Like the literal words want to draw is like double or nothing because it does nothing then. So if you play it, this is the card you absolutely don't want to see. In 60 cards, you have like a 6 or 7% chance to see this in the opening hand. So play with confidence. These guys like can be unclogged with brothers, and this sometimes can be unclogged by playing normally the game, but it's not optimal to draw them, right? So those are the Garnets. And then I decided to split up the Knights as well between like the Toolbox Knights. These are all Toolbox Knights, like they are good in different situations. So that's one thing. They are not the thing you want to draw the most, but they are useful. Like Vanilla Arthurgus is just literally only good for unexpected die, which is one of our better normal summon warriors. Our better normal summons, our better warrior special summoners. So these all fill different roles. Then we have like the Engine Knights, which are Medrot and Boars. In fact, the card that moves the deck, the two key cards of the deck are Boars, Isolde. These are the key engines. This card is the key card of the deck. So yeah, Medrot is good because it can lead you to Boars and Isolde, but it's not the card you want to see. Like toolboxing other stuff is really rare. Like usually you don't toolbox anything else. So, and then we have like the Noble Knight monsters that can be a special summon or can special summon more Noble Knights to the field, right? So if you look at this, we have a great amount of cards that can special summon themselves. This means that our deck has a higher ceiling. A ceiling means that a higher ceiling means specifically that we can play more cards. Like ideally in the modern game, you don't want to draw dead cards because they don't do anything. This is the reason as of why we made the shift from regular trap cards to trap cards with absurd effects and hand traps. Like it's very, very, very rare to see cards like Solemn being played now. Like they are common between among the more casual circles, but they're really not common at competitive. Like it's usually one of those stats that you're not expecting, but it's not a commonly played card, and that's because you don't want to see that card if you go second. You want to keep up the tempo. You want to be able to play as many of your cards as possible. So yeah. So I'm gonna try to break down the cards. Like all of these guys, like Gawain only has a role. Is to special summon, to create a granted loyalist, Isolde, or Kings. Like mainly custom. Like you don't even summon the rank for too much anymore. So that's why. And this guy is a bit more complex. It's more or less in the same boat as Gawain, but sometimes the extra normal summon comes in really handy. So keep in mind that. And then the brothers. This is one of the key cards of the deck. Like Isolde and Boars kickstart the deck off, but these guys are what gives you infinite legs and what makes the green game for this deck very good. Like basically all of your deck is alive for the entirety of the game if you set up correctly, and setting up correctly is setting up Isolde and Noble Arms are needed again. So that's really important as well. Then the most important card in the deck, which is like Noble Knight Boards, and yeah, I do like Platinum if you're wondering. Noble Knight Boards, but only the Platinum that are Europrint. because the American Platinum, like look the difference. I don't know if the difference between Boars and the Road can be seen, but this card has a nice spark, and this one is just awful. But and yeah, like I've told you, Boars is really important because milling these three cards is going to result in 3+ cards. It's actually 4 cards. Like Boars and the Noble Arm are 2 cards, but then you are recovering 2, and then you're getting a search and another one. Even if they are delayed, control decks usually give you that many turns, and they have issues overcoming this. I'm going to show you how to use these cards effectively in a while. So hold on. This is why this guy is so important. Like I've told you, Noble Knights are not about a combo deck. They are not a combo deck. Like I summon like this guy and the other Abyss, and then I summon whatever, and make like the big board. This is a green deck. This more closely resembles like Salamangreat as opposed to Dragon Link. So yeah, it's very easy to get lost with this. So yeah. But Rod, this card is just an alternate starter. It's okay. It's okay. It's only good, like I told you, because it summons his Olden Boars. Like that's the only thing it does. Usually after turn 1, it's just a Cavazos, so it's fine, I guess. And then we have the toolbox cards. I'm going to start with the easiest one. Tristan is very important because oftentimes you're going to be summoning him on your opponent's turn, just in defense mode, just so he can protect the Soldier Boars. So that's really, really, really important. Or sometimes like they just chain removal on the Soldier Boars, and then you chain this card, and then Tristan is going to come in, and then they die, and they have that Noble Arm, and they have one of the re-equipable Noble Arms, and then Tristan is going to get that Noble Arm, and he's going to pop a card. He's very, very, very versatile to play on your opponent's turn, which this deck lacks, is one of its key problems. Then we have Evane. It's basically just for OTK. I actually don't use this card too much the way I'm playing the deck, and have thought about replacing it with other cards like Bedrear. Like many people don't like Bedrear because they don't understand the role. Usually with Bedrear, it gets to a point where you have your third trap, and you recycle Tristan, and you get to summon it again with Isolde, and use the Bedrear for the for the cheap disruption, which is pretty potent in a simplified game state. Like if you are getting to the third trap resolution, the game state is really simple. A simple game state is where both players have few cards to play. So yep, that's why I would have considered it. It's not necessarily better, but I'm not using this card for anything lately, so yep. And then we have the Vanilla, which is for die. It's important because Unexpected Die is one of the cards, it's one of the better cards to go second. It's really important to go second because it gives you a Noble Knight body, so you can summon Costanin. Costanin is the card you want to summon when you go second. The card you want to summon when you go first is Isolde, and when you go second is Costanin, right? So yeah, that's it. And then Galahad. Galahad is usually my first search if I manage to set up with Noble Arms and need it again. And I will explain you why so when I get the chance to explain this card properly. So, and these two guys, they can be breaky, but they are also really powerful. Like out of the toolbox options, these are probably the best ones. Like outside of Tristan, which is the best toolbox option, these guys are high there. So yeah, this card, I'm going to show you why, but just rest assured that these cards are kind of necessary. So yeah. Then we have these cards. These cards are either a starter or an extender, which is really cool. So, or a starter or a warrior that can special summon itself or himself, right? So they're really good. Then we have 3 Instant Fusion, 3 Brigandine, 3 Die, 2, 3, 4 Hornet drone, and then from this point and on we can branch off. Like we could go possibly to routes, like I'm going to explain in a while. But keep in mind these are 4, these are 7, these are 10, these are 13, and finally we have 17. 17 warriors that can special summon themselves, and we're not even accounting for more fringe stuff like Gawain or Kostanin. Like I have drawn Kostanin with no way to special summon him, but I don't think I have ever drawn a Gawain with no way to special summon him. So keep that in mind. So we can branch off in 2 different ways. Like we play UA. I don't like UA. Like UA is not bad, but there has been a pretty vocal person, like basically saying that UA is better than Sky Striker, and it's not. This is because this is a simple, just one function card. Like it just summons the midfielder. I don't know. I should have a midfielder around here, but it's just a simple function card. If you think about it, like these 4 cards perform the same function as the 3 and the midfielder, except that Engage is not only better because it can draw your card, it's better because it can also act as 4 copies of. It can act as 4 copies of a warrior that can special summon himself, or it can act as a copy of Go by the Grave. So that's pretty important. And then, if you really wanted to take it a bit further, like you could consider playing other Sky Striker options like Shark Cannon, or the jamming waves. Shark Cannon is good because if they hand trap the Isolde, ideally you would like this so Isolde can resolve, but this one can be a good option as well because you resolve Isolde, and if they stop it, then you get a free monster reborn. That's good synergy right there. So that's an option. I don't play it, but it's an option. And then you have the jamming waves. This means that you have access to 4 bad mystical space typhoons, but these cards, but unlike mystical space typhoon, these cards can act as engine. So that's why this card's important. Like it transforms your 1-offs into 4-offs, and that's important in a 60-card deck. Having a card that can toolbox stuff it's really important. So that's why it's better than UA. That's one way. It's okay to play UA, but I don't think that's the best way. The other way, it's like playing spell-based extenders. Yeah, and the best one is likely Living Fossil because it helps the deck with the equip spell problem. I'm going to show you in a while what is the equip spell problem or the equip spell paradox. It's both an extender and more fluff to drum with Isolde. And then we have these cards. Like this card is potentially way more interesting, so I'm going to explain in a while. But these cards are good because they can also help you to make Ranid Loyalist or make Masquerina, which are really important cards in the game plan, as I'm going to show you in a bit. So we have these cards. And then we have like Phantasme. I already explained you why Phantasme is better than Ash Blossom. It protects your setups, and it also is able to kind of fix your hands. It's also a body for Masquerina. Masquerina is an important card with this deck. Like I'm going to show you why. So yeah, I don't know. I know that people for the most part hate this card because it's expensive. But rest assured that this card is stupidly powerful in current format. It's better than Ash Blossom. So that's why I play this one. And then we have the equip spells. So I have 1, I have 2, I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. This card I cannot meet with Isolde. I cannot mill with Isolde, right? So I have 4 and 4, right? If I wanted to resolve Isolde once, like I would go this way, right? And then if I wanted to resolve Isolde again, I would dump this 4, right? But what happens if I draw a noble arm? Then I can't resolve Isolde. This is why Living Fossil is important, because it's a good card that you can draw to make more plays, but it can complete sets. Like here you have 5 and here you have 4, and you can draw 1. So that's why I like 2 fossils. Like it's really, really good in testing. And before people comes and complains that they would rather draw an noble arm, they are incorrect. The reason as of why is because these fossils are not replacing they're not replacing noble arms. They are replacing another extender. So these cards don't fill the same fundamental roles as this card. It's just a card that manages to overlap with this function, but that can also help with another problem of the deck. So keep that in mind. Yeah, it's better to draw an noble arm, but it's also bad to draw 2. So that's why I don't play it more. So this card, it's a nice in-between that actually does help do it. So yeah, I play 2 of this one because it's the best one. It can actually generate card advantage, and then play 2 Destiny because Destiny is what helps Yugioh to survive. It transforms a 2 monster board into a 3 monster board by surviving another hit, and it's also the card you want to pass down to Tristan when your other guys die. So that's why I play 2. I only play 1 Excalibur because I haven't used its graveyard effect since I don't know when. So if I haven't used it, it's because I don't need it. What I usually do to summon the right 5 king is crash Costenin, and that usually is enough. So, and then we have the best card in the deck, but also the most complex one, right? This card is pretty misunderstood. This card could not have been released in 2014 when the deck was actually 2014 was when Primal Origins was released. It's when Brothers was released, when Merlin was released. This card literally couldn't have existed in 2014 because it's that powerful. Like people don't even understand why this card is so important and why this card is so powerful. This is a card that allows the deck to outrange pretty much everything and allows the deck to toolbox the entire deck and allows the deck to beat green decks pretty much easily. This deck struggles a lot with combo decks, but it has a really, really, really good matchup against decks like Sky Striker. Like the only times I have consistently lost to Sky Striker is when they have like incredibly powerful setups, like there can only be one in Solemn, or Mystic Mine with Solemn, or there can only be one with Mystic Mine. It's absurd. Like yeah, usually you have a really good matchup against the Sky Striker. So yeah, let's say that you resolve Wars turn 1 versus a Sky Striker, and you mill all of the three trap cards. Usually, I want to make a big clarification here. Usually people misplay boards as well, because usually what people does is like reveal 2 traps and a queen, and if you're going to keep doing that, don't play the third one. It's absolutely redundant. It's just not. The problem is that you can't dump the queen because of the shark cannon. You then just don't mill it. Mill the 3 trap cards, and if you're facing a control deck, you're going to get access to queen next turn anyway. Just don't mill the 3 trap cards. It's more card advantage. Like you're going to add 1, you are going to add a random card with this, and then you have another free monster, as opposed to Winnebeer, which is just not free card advantage. So yeah, let's say you went first and you mill the 3 trap cards versus Sky Striker. You're here and you made any combo, like taking in account that this deck is not specifically looking to do any combo, and this deck is a deck that requires you to know all every and all meta decks from inside outside because it has disadvantage. So if the deck has some disadvantage, you have to overcome that disadvantage with knowledge of the better decks. That's why it's important